Hello, my name is Denise Gordon, and I am putting my little pinky toe inside this whole vlogging nation that has taken over in the social media space. And I'm about to join in. And probably part of, I've enjoyed a lot of the vloggers. These folks work really hard to be that consistent and to talk so knowledgeably about whatever their subject matter is. And, I like listening to Funky Geneva and Calvin. Is his name Calvin? Calvin and Tasha Mack back in the day before she had her baby. I haven't listened to her since she had her baby, but I do recognize and I give them a full props. And probably why I never kind of joined in sooner was because I felt I wasn't adding anything, that I didn't really have something to add to the space. And what I recognize is also that you have to be wanting to, you talk about stuff that you're interested in. And not that I wasn't interested in the stuff, but I was interested in maybe in too much stuff. So, part of that was, was why I hesitated. And and I don't know about research. I was like, I don't know, they can't be too difficult researching, and I'm not that analytical and stuff like that. So I was, reticent in participating. And then what happened? Then young, famous, and African happened. And I was like, uh-oh. And then I started listening to these people, Kempire. That was a new one that, that I was listening to. I started listening to these people who were kind of waking up to Africa. And I like television. I like television. I mean, like some of my shows, like right now that I'm either watching or binging is Bel Air. Bridgerton, I'm taking my time to come back in because the last time I just like ate that whole cake up in one gulp. This time I'm going to be a bit more, strategic and relaxed about it. Wonder Years. I am binging Shameless. Like I've heard of the show. I never watched the show. Did I even heard of the show? I think I just seen pictures of the show. That show is really something. And to imagine that it's been on for 11 seasons, great guga to the muga. What? But it's just kind of, it's different. It's different. It's a different depiction of, of America, another side of America that we don't talk about so much. Um, the Amazing Miss Maisel, though, I used to binge that, but my gosh, sometimes that her she talks really fast, and her character talks really fast, and that becomes annoying after a while. And then I'm looking at the classics, 227, Sanford and Son, Meet the Parkers, Good Times, Friends. In that, I'm an actress, and you learn so much binging. If you had that time to sit there for, hours on end, you learn so much binging that you don't see when you're watching a show once a week, how we used to do in the dinosaur era of watching a show once a week. So, I was already into television, and I guess for the fact that I lived in Africa for 25 years, made that show. And I want to say young, gifted, and black. I mean, the young, famous, and African. And that's something I was like, okay. And well, the thing that actually inspired me to say, okay, maybe I have a lane here, was listening to vloggers, and understandably, they were looking at the show from their perspective as a Black American, Black American taste, culture, whatever. And they were then putting that on the situation there with the characters of this show that is based in Africa and profiling young, rich, and famous Africans. And it doesn't always work. And there was a lot of misses and things that almost made me cringe, and in terms of the commentary. And the commentary was a false narrative about what was happening there, because it was just based on our culture here. And that's understandable. I'm not even, some people have self-corrected in their space. in their, in their platforms, and some just haven't. But we do come together on, there is a human element. That is, we're humans in Africa, we're humans in America, and there's there are things that are, we're more alike than we are different, but there are a lot of differences. And so I don't want to go necessarily into the show and the characters and whatnot. I mean, I'll do a little bit of that because, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening there, but I that's not where I really wanted to um, focus my time. I am exalted that folks are really tuned in and kind of coming with the same message that when I saw it. Yeah, it's a reality show, same formula as all these reality shows, but we don't have, and still don't have, a lot of opportunities where Black people are shown in a positive light. Okay? And it's this kind of like, do we all have to be gangbangers? Do we all have to be on drugs or selling drugs? Do we all have to be poor? I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, at one point, I even said to myself, you know, if I see a Lupita Nyong'o with another headscarf on her head, I love her, but I don't want to see another movie with her wearing a headscarf, So, um, we just gotta, break out. And the some of the reality shows that are out there, the Housewives and of the world, but Huntsville something or other. I used to be a reality show junkie when I lived in Africa, because that was my way of kind of, I don't know, connecting, you know connecting. And but I'm less so now. I less so now. In fact, they stress me. I was a 90-day fiance addict, and then I'm like, why am I taking on these people's problems? So I don't want to do that anymore. I don't watch that show anymore. I can do with the highlights. I can do with the highlights. So so what I wanted to do was to maybe just impart like three things about Africa. So I did say that I lived in Africa for 25 years. I started my career off. My first trip to the continent was when I was spry and 19, and I always say that I was young enough. Hold on, I was old enough to appreciate the experience that I was having as a Crossroads Africa volunteer, and I was young enough to orient my life to take advantage of it. And that's exactly what I did. I wanted to be a doctor before I went on this, spent a 6-week summer in Kenya building schools, or building a school in Katiani village in Machakos in Kenya. And I went back to school after that, and I changed my major to from pre-med to international relations. And as somebody reminded me, I worked the heck out of that degree. Okay, so I have spent time pretty much kind of transversing the continent. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Senegal, Nangadef. My first paying gig outside the United States was in Mali, Somokokakene. And from there, I went to Rwanda, in starting my pretty much my career in humanitarian assistance, following um, the incredible civil war, genocide that happened there. Amakuruchi, and also then on to Burundi, uh, Amakuruchi again, and working with NGOs, non-government organizations, CARE, AfriCare, United Nations, U.S. Agency for International Development, until my baby came and I had to give up the war zones. But I didn't give up Africa, and I didn't give up my dream of raising my child in Africa. And that dream actually started with the fact that when I was so oriented in my studies here in the States, in African studies and things like that, political science, um, I would kind of only hang out with the Africans. And I was dating mainly Africans. And I was just so taken with their self-confidence and just their demeanor and their focus and all that other good stuff. And I just said, I just want my child to have that foundation, just the first 5 years, first 6 years. I wound up giving him the first 9 years. And dream come true because he has that foundation. He has that foundation. Anywho, um, so what I wanted to do was just share just a few points, about Africa. And particularly if you're hooked into this show, you're going to learn a lot. And that's the thing that I just totally love about it. And that's the commentary that I'm getting is like, oh, um, there are things that I didn't know. You're going to learn if you really tune into the show, you're going to learn a lot. I want to give you kind of more of the overall, just a few points to keep in mind. Um, Africa is not a monolith, okay? It is made up of 52, 54 countries. And I say 52, 54 because some certain countries or certain borders are disputed. And so they're not recognized as countries like the Western Sahara. That might have been formerly colonized or whatever by, don't get me wrong, I have to look this up, but I want to say Spain. But anyway, so there's like 52 different countries. Uh, there are over like 1,500, 2,000 languages that are spoken in in Africa. Africa is 1.2 billion people, 2016 census. Um, so there's not, it does not represent, one country does not represent the entire continent. You can find regions of the country, of the continent that are similar because they have semblance, because the colonizers, I love the colonizers, as they did in Black Panther, my girl in Black Panther. They came in, they separated groups that normally would be together, and put groups together that normally wouldn't be together. And so they maintained the demarcations of borders that the colonizers put forth in the 1800s. And once countries became independent, they, just said, hey, we'll just stick with these. All right. But some of them were like, okay, it just wasn't going to work, and therefore someplace like Ethiopia and Eritrea, after a 22-year war, they separated, and those are now internationally recognized two different countries. Well, Ethiopia has always been recognized as a country, but Eritrea hasn't. And I forget what year, but, it hasn't been, 30 years. No, it might have been 30 years. Anywho, it's recent. It's not something that was determined in 1885. Okay. It's the same with Sudan and South Sudan. Um, that was, I guess, I should know because but I don't remember. But it's not 10 years or something like that. That's recent. So anyway, so it's not a monolith. There are so many different cultures. If I say take a place like Kenya that has 44 different, we can say tribes or, ethnic groups or whatever, and each group has their own language, each group have their own culture, but there's an umbrella, in certain, depending on regions and geographic, that, there are semblances, even of languages. Someplace a language like Swahili, which is actually a blend of Bantu and Arabic language. You can find Swahili spoken in so many, like maybe 3 or 4 different countries. Maybe there's like 11 million people. No, there are like 40 million people that probably speak Swahili across a number of different countries. Okay, so it's not just one little, Africa, it's Africa and all their countries, all right, and their differences. Okay, the what you're seeing on the show, yes, it's about the rich and famous. And they might not have been famous to you, but we are deducing that there is definitely an opulent lifestyle that they are living. And but everybody doesn't live like that. And quite honestly, according to the World Bank, um, 85% of the continent is surviving on less than $6 a day. Okay. So we're clearly looking at that other 15%. And that's cool. It's cool because that it's usually that 85% that everybody thinks, is just the way that it is. But there is, a level economic diversity, a little, a little, a little. But there are super rich, people in Africa. Okay. Um, so what we're seeing, though interesting, but know that everybody, obviously, you probably don't have to go too far. But I will say that I have not lived in South Africa. I visited South Africa. I haven't lived there. Most of my time has been between West and East Africa and Central Africa. Um, there is definitely a very high. There's an economic advantage that Southern Africa has that I don't see in the areas of Africa that I have visited and lived in. So there is something special going on, and not just South Africa, for that region as well. And the other, I'll say my last point of keeping in mind, because there's been a lot of comments about, Kanye's skin lightening, which kind of, dates back, the history of that dates back a bit, but I'll get into that. I will definitely, and everyone's wearing the weaves and the hair and, the nails. Well, I do the nails too, but not like Kanye's doing. Good Lord. But anywho, um, there's a lot of emulation by Africa of America, um, and particularly Black Americans. Okay. Americans are master marketers, and we have exported movies, music videos, TV shows to around the world, but definitely to Africa. Styles they have picked up. We have been an influence. Black Americans has been an influence for the continent in their music. There was a funk soul period in the 70s, like we had our funk period in the 70s. Style. There's it's just kind of been back and forth. But there is they are emulating. You will find some people who know the theme song of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, better than you do. I kind of that part about they went up to good, so I don't make trouble in the neighborhood. I got one. I forgot. There's a part there that I kind of mumble through, and it's somewhere around that playground. Um, but those things have heavily impacted a lot of Africans, young Africans. I was so surprised. We actually did a Motown in Nairobi, and the singers in town, we got together and we put on a show doing Motown, and show was sold out because that music was also their music. That music was also their music. So, when you see those hair weaves and stuff like that, trust. Trust. where that influence is also coming from. Who don't want to have no swag? Who don't want to flip their hair back and forth, right? So those are the points that I kind of would love for you to just kind of keep in mind as you grow with the show, your knowledge about Africa. Um, Now I am going to talk a little bit about the characters, a little bit about the characters, because they are a highlight. Let's be very clear, and I think all the vloggers are saying this, that the formula for the show is the reality formula, and the queen of that reality formula is the OG herself, Kanye. Okay, unapologetic, a master puppeteer. Um, has she's the queen bee, and for the most part, that's why her and Zari, the other queen bee, don't get along, because you can only have one queen at a time on a show. Okay, so that's where the drama comes in, and the show would be boring without drama. So, and there's plenty of it, and everybody hating on somebody at one point or another. I wanted to talk about, or just kind of mention, um, everyone's saying that Kaylee is white, and she probably. I was looking at her last name, and her last name is, it's not Schwartz, but something like it. Schwark. Okay, not a very African name. And again, I don't know the names. Like, if you tell me somebody, if you tell me Mensa, and I know that Mensa is a Ghanaian name, and if you tell me Koulibaly, that is a Mali Senegalese name. So I'm learning. I know names. I'm learning. I'm learning names. I know some. I can tell you where they're from if I hear it. And particularly if I had a chance of living there. So I don't know. But they do have a race called colored in South Africa, and those are the mixed people. And when I first met my first colored person, I was like, what? He was like darker than me. So we back in the day, we used to pass. We used to pass. So I don't know. I don't know. I thought she was colored. I Other people say she's white. I don't know. But, you know, I don't know. But I don't believe the part, whatever she is, I don't believe the relationship between her and DJ Naked Quentin. I think I think she was thrown a bone to get on the show and to elevate her platform for, she's a semi-professional sports person. I think that was the dealio. But I don't feel them at all. And I think they were coupled up because of um, you know for her to get on the show. So apparently he has been on other shows. There's the Housewives of Johannesburg, and he has been on there with his wife, whom he sends this. These reality shows, you gotta be careful, child, because there's a lot of broken up little situations that we definitely have witnessed here. And he was on that with his wife, and they're not together anymore. But anyway, I digress. I don't understand why everybody loves Annie. Everybody loves Annie. It's not that I don't love her, but I think, I've just been so surprised with how people, like, oh, yeah, Annie's my girl. And I'm like, I found her, first of all, I was a little confused because I felt that when they had the ball, the whole thing started with episode one was the ball that Kanye had organized, and Annie came to the ball, and I felt that she didn't know anybody but Swanky, and now they're best of friends, and this is my friend, and she's telling all her business to people that I thought she didn't know them. But some people open up, and it's clear that she needs to open up, because she's clearly in a lot of pain and discomfort, and and stressed by her man. um and I can empathize with that. And I guess it's just like the level of the insecurity that comes with it, particularly if you're with a player. And she says, you know, my my first child, and I knew him way before all these other little wenches came along. My first child was his fifth child. Okay. So I don't know to what extent that this has been a gift to her to be on this show, because it's, she is an actress. I don't know her, but she is an actress in her, in her presentation, as she introduces herself, and and has acted in a lot of shows and whatnot. But clearly her biggest role has been the wife of Two-Face, and Two-Face, who was is a major, major, major African artist, out of Nigeria. And maybe this he validates her, and he also validates her for the show. Okay. And so maybe it's just that, and the insecurities. I know she hates that word, but it's just so true. And I just didn't understand her jumping around when he, not proposed, but wanted to renew their vows. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But I'm like, do they live together? Because and then it was explained to me that him doing that, said to all them other little wenches out there, I am the one. I am the one he chose yet again, no matter who he's hanging out with. So it does give her that, bragging right and status. I just hope it gives her, and I wish it would give her that happiness, but happiness doesn't come from there. It doesn't come from another person. But anywho, so that's all I wanted to share. And as I find my way and find my road on this thing, there's a lot of good African, Netflix be bombing, man. They be doing their thing. And there's a number of projects. And I know that they're making an effort in terms of bringing, more international, more African. I mean, they say African and they only look at South Africa and Nigeria, mainly Nigeria. Okay, there's a film industry in a lot of different countries outside of those two, but the show is a good start. It's got a good buzz. I know they are happy, and I am happy too, to see Africa and Africans shown in a different light. But as you look at it, have an open mind. All right, just because how we do it don't mean that's how they do it. All right, so thank you. See you later.